The Range Rover sat crooked in a Willowbrook driveway with its glass scattered across concrete and its doors hanging open like something heavy just tore through that block. Neighbors stepped onto porches, trying to understand those sharp cracks they heard only minutes earlier, while three teens ran into the darkness yelling for someone to call for help as sirens echoed from farther streets. Two boys stayed slumped over in the front seats while the night stayed strangely calm around them. No names were spoken yet, and no story made sense yet, but nothing about that scene felt random to anyone watching. Something pulled those boys to that street with quiet purpose that started inside a phone screen long before bullets ever flew. Jamil Hill moved through Gardena High with the type of presence that young athletes carried when their teams trusted them completely, and coaches leaned on him to control the middle of the field every Friday night. People in those hallways knew him as Jay, and teammates followed his voice during games where his energy kept their confidence steady when the scoreboard looked rough. His linebacker instincts came from long afternoons of repetition, and his jokes in the locker room kept everybody loose before kickoffs. He stayed close to his family, and his siblings respected how seriously he handled his responsibilities at home while balancing schoolwork and football ambitions. Million Colquit walked Centennial High with a different rhythm, shaped by a tough year that forced him to keep moving while dealing with personal loss that hit his household hard. He tried football first, though the team lacked equipment that season, so he shifted into basketball, where he developed quickly, surprising coaches who noticed his athletic upside almost immediately. His growth showed in practices where his confidence returned after months spent adjusting to life without his mother, whose death earlier that year left him under his grandmother's care. Friends called him Millie and admired how he still managed to smile through days that tested him deeply. The cousins treated each other like brothers who moved in sync, even when life placed them in different schools, and people around them saw how inseparable they stayed during weekends or family gatherings. Their bond gave them stability during a year filled with challenges, and the two leaned on each other whenever things felt heavy. Neither one carried reputations tied to street politics or neighborhood disputes, and neither spent time entangled in conflicts that older sets fed off across Watts, Compton, and surrounding pockets of South Los Angeles. They lived like regular teens, dealing with growing pains, school commitments, athletic dreams, and family duties. Nothing about their lives aligned with the type of violence that found them later, and nothing about their plans that night suggested danger waited on Maple Avenue. They entered that Range Rover with the same naive expectations many teens carried when stepping into late-night drives, with music playing and conversations bouncing. They planned nothing harmful and anticipated nothing sinister. Their innocence sat at the center of this story, and understanding who they were explains the weight carried by their final moments. Their lives held promise that stretched far beyond Willowbrook streets, and the contrast between their character and their fate forms the emotional core that drives everything that follows here. SK spent most days scrolling through Instagram like any 17-year-old who used the app to kill time between errands and link-ups, and nothing about his afternoon routine on October 15th suggested trouble hovered behind a screen. He rode in the back seat with his friends while posting stories showing their route and their mood, including one that displayed me +4 with the type of playful confidence teens often used while driving around in borrowed cars. That story reached more people than he realized, including someone who studied those posts more seriously. A profile named Unbothered viewed the story and tapped on a poll he posted that hinted he wanted company that night. The account looked like a regular girl's page with typical selfies and casual captions, and SK did not question its sudden interest since random follows came often on that app. The messages flowed lightly at first, mixing flirtation and short replies that felt normal enough to keep SK engaged. The tone made the whole exchange feel casual, and the pace of those replies kept him curious about meeting up. Looking back, the questions now read differently, but at that moment, SK saw nothing suspicious when she asked where he was headed, or if he rode alone, or if the group planned to chill near a certain street. Those details seemed harmless to a teen expecting a social night ahead. The confidence of youth mixed with the excitement of potential attention from a girl made the scenario feel easy, and SK encouraged the driver to continue rolling toward the meetup spot she mentioned on Maple Avenue. The boys treated the situation like something simple, talking among themselves while checking their phones for her next message. Every unanswered call made them slightly unsure, though not enough to turn back. Her silence felt more like typical teen unpredictability rather than warning signs. He sent her a quick video showing the street outside, assuming she needed confirmation they reached the right location. She viewed it almost instantly, which reassured him before things shifted sharply. Those messages pulled the Range Rover deeper into a setup shaped by someone watching SK's movements carefully. The excitement of meeting new girls masked the danger that waited on that quiet Willowbrook block. With every message sent and every question answered, the boys stepped closer to a trap designed through digital footprints they never noticed. Each tiny interaction pushed the group into a narrow lane that Madge and Tryon monitored from the shadows, waiting for confirmation that the car parked exactly where they wanted it. The tension behind those messages sat unnoticed in that moment, though those decisions shaped the entire night that followed. The story moved through South Los Angeles, with roots stretching deep into Watts' history, and people around Jordan Downs understood how long that tension lasted between Grape Street Watts Crips and bounty hunter Bloods who claimed Nickerson Gardens. The streets inside those two housing projects carry memories shaped by older disputes that started during the mid-'80s and followed each generation that grew up within those walls. The shootings across those communities created patterns that young members inherited naturally, and those conflicts rarely paused even when temporary peace agreements surfaced during different years. The Watts Truce of 1992 offers some relief for families living around East 103rd Street, though the calm gradually faded after years passed and new incidents reignited old feelings throughout those blocks. Patrol officers documented multiple shootings tied to that rivalry across the 2000s, and residents remembered names connected to earlier events that echoed through conversations inside both neighborhoods. Each era created its own version of that conflict, and teenagers learned quickly which areas demanded caution during their daily routines. The rise of smartphones changed how that rivalry played out publicly, and younger members used Instagram and Snapchat to track rival movements or showcase their neighborhood pride through posts and captions. Some uploaded disrespectful messages toward deceased members of the opposing side, while others posted videos flashing signs tied to their projects. Those online displays gained attention fast, and tensions escalated through comment threads, while screenshots moved between groups around Watts. People used social media for entertainment, though certain posts also revealed location information based on backgrounds or street signs visible in the footage. Those clues occasionally helped rivals spot familiar corners, and this pattern influenced how confrontations began developing long before people physically crossed paths. Those online habits became a new battlefield layered on top of older street conflicts. This digital environment shaped SK's world too, and the FaceTime exchange that eventually connected him to Maj emerged within that online culture. SK used his phone casually without considering how those messages reached people who closely watched rival accounts from Jordan Downs. His argument with the young Grape affiliate formed another link in a long chain of moments shaped by that historical feud. His words carry weight he never expected, and that tension created the path that led him toward danger months later. The argument between SK and Ramaj Blumfield began with a regular call that turned messy fast, and that moment introduced energy that followed them into October. Maj stepped into that FaceTime conversation while SK spoke with the girl connected to his household, and Maj used the opportunity to brag about beating SK's older brother during an earlier altercation between their groups. He carried himself with confidence shaped by his association with Grape Street and felt comfortable pressing SK during that heated exchange. SK fired back instantly with sharp insults, throwing disrespect toward Grape Street members who passed away, and those words stung Maj deeply. Insulting deceased individuals in that environment hit harder than other remarks, and many members treated that as a personal attack that demanded some form of reply. SK likely underestimated how damaging those comments sounded to someone linked strongly to Jordan Downs and his long history. Maj developed an athletic name at Theodore Roosevelt High School as a track and football standout, and coaches respected his talent during his senior year. People around him believed he possessed potential to move into college sports, though his growing involvement with Grape Street shaped another side of his identity that he guarded closely. He lived within a community where loyalty mattered greatly, and that FaceTime incident struck him harder than SK realized. Though Maj never said much during the call after the insults landed, his expression shifted as he processed SK's words. He viewed that moment as disrespect toward his neighborhood and his family, and he carried that feeling through the following weeks. That sour energy grew stronger as he spoke with his cousin Tryon Bird, known around Jordan Downs as Mini Man. Tryon stood firmly inside Grape Street circles and moved with people who followed that rivalry closely, and he listened carefully when Maj explained the FaceTime situation. Tryon encouraged Maj to handle the situation steadily and remain patient, and both cousins began monitoring SK's movements through social media platforms where SK posted daily. Their curiosity grew as they followed his updates, and they noticed patterns in his posts that revealed information useful to anyone seeking him. This moment created the first stage of the trap that later pulled Jamil and Million into the story, despite having no role in the earlier dispute. Maj replayed that FaceTime argument in his thoughts often, and he felt obligated to address the disrespect spoken during that call. He viewed that incident as a threat to his standing inside Grape Street and believed people expected him to respond decisively. Tryon agreed fully and pledged to assist however possible while they developed quiet plans over the following weeks. Their conversations during late summer marked the start of everything that followed in October, and this moment clarified why SK became the true target of the later ambush. Maj and Tryon created a plan that required patience, and they used Instagram as their main tool to reach SK undetected. Tryon set up the fake page with the name Unbothered using the email address tkmini103@gmail.com, which investigators later linked directly to him. The account carries stolen photos that appeared normal to most teenagers scrolling quickly, and SK followed the page back without studying its details carefully. Maj and Tryon waited weeks before engaging, checking SK's stories daily until they spotted his Me+4 post on October 15th that revealed he rode with multiple friends inside a rented Range Rover. That story gave them confirmation he stayed mobile with a group of teens willing to cruise late at night, and they recognized an opportunity to lure him into a predetermined area where they could approach him easily. Unbothered messaged SK shortly after checking his story, and Tryon wrote casual replies designed to appear natural enough to gain SK's trust. He provided the Maple Avenue address while describing it as a place where several girls planned to chill, and SK believed that explanation without hesitation. SK's excitement for a simple meetup overshadowed the potential risks involved in driving into Willowbrook that late at night. As the Range Rover approached the address, SK tried calling Unbothered repeatedly, though she ignored those FaceTime attempts intentionally. SK recorded the quick street video and sent it to confirm their arrival, and that clip allowed Madge and Tryon to pinpoint the exact location of the vehicle under the dim light on Maple Avenue. They watched that message closely before moving into position with the intent to confront SK directly. The trap formed gradually through messages, though the danger felt invisible to the teens inside that truck. Every detail Madge and Tryon gathered through Instagram guided their movements across Willowbrook that night, and the plan reached its final stage once SK confirmed they parked near the driveway where the ambush later unfolded. Tryon Bird created the Unbothered account through a burner email that carried the numbers 103, which represented the Grape Street identity tied to Jordan Downs territory. He pulled photos from random corners of the internet and arranged them on the page with simple captions that looked normal enough to distract any teen scrolling fast on Instagram. The profile seemed harmless to someone like SK, who barely checked details when following new accounts that looked friendly or interesting. The page stayed quiet for several weeks while Tryon monitored SK's posts and stories closely. Madge and Tryon understood patience very well, and they waited for the perfect moment that aligned with SK's online activity. They watched his stories daily and studied everything he posted that might reveal his movements around Los Angeles. Their chance finally arrived on October 15th when SK shared the Me+4 story from the backseat of the rented Range Rover, letting anyone watching know he rode with the group that night. That update signaled availability to them, and they acted immediately by having Unbothered respond with subtle interest. The messages flowed with a casual tone that felt convincing enough to keep SK engaged while the Range Rover continued its route. Unbothered asked for small details like who he rode with or where he planned to stop, and SK answered naturally without sensing any hidden motive. She suggested a spot near the 12,200 block of Maple Avenue in Willowbrook and told him to pull up once they got close. SK responded with excitement and sent "pull up" as confirmation, which encouraged her to reply with the address again. The boys turned onto Maple Avenue expecting a chill meetup. Once the vehicle reached the street, SK tried calling Unbothered through FaceTime several times, although she ignored every attempt intentionally. That silence made him slightly confused, though not enough to change his plans. He eventually sent a video clip showing the exact street where they waited, filming the parked houses and the dim lights glowing over the sidewalk. Unbothered viewed the video instantly, confirming for Madge and Tryon that the Range Rover reached the selected location. That single clip gave them everything they needed to move forward. They now knew the car's angle, its position near the driveway, and the direction the headlights faced. Their patience paid off as they stepped into the final stage of their setup. The Range Rover crept slowly down Maple Avenue while the boys inside tried reaching Unbothered once more, and the unanswered calls created a strange tension among them. The street stayed quiet, with only a few porch lights glowing faintly along the block, and nothing around them suggested danger as they waited. SK looked from window to window while checking his phone for another message, and the group stayed parked as minutes passed without movement. Their attention drifted to the dark houses ahead, unaware that two figures watched them silently from nearby shadows. Madge and Tryon positioned themselves farther down the block, and their silhouettes blended with the muted corners of the street, The Range Rover sat still with its lights dimmed, creating the perfect moment for an approach from the side. One figure moved first, stepping from the shadows near a tree while keeping low. The shooter made his way toward the driver's door with controlled steps and focused intention, and nothing from inside the vehicle alerted Jamil to the danger closing in on him. SK noticed movement too late to react. A sudden burst of gunfire shattered the window beside Jamil, sending glass flying across his clothing and the dashboard. The shooter fired repeatedly through the shattered opening, hitting Jamil and Million instantly while the other boys screamed in shock. The shots tore through the seats and metal frame with brutal force, and the interior filled with smoke and broken fragments. Despite being hit, Jamil pressed the gas pedal with instinctive urgency, trying to escape the kill zone before the shooter fired again. The Range Rover lunged forward with a violent jolt and swerved directly into a driveway near the corner of East 124th Street. The impact crushed the front bumper against a parked car and sent more glass raining across the sidewalk. The sudden movement startled the shooter, who stepped back briefly before retreating with Madge into the darkness toward a waiting getaway route. Their footsteps faded fast while the engine sputtered weakly in the driveway. Inside the truck, SK and the other survivors scrambled out of the back doors, running toward safer streets while yelling for someone to help them. Their voices echoed down the block while they searched for houses with lights still on. Neighbors stepped outside slowly, still unsure if the noises were fireworks or something more serious. Those living closest to the driveway approached cautiously, staring at the vehicle with confusion as they noticed the blown windows and the damaged front end. Some residents thought the popping sounds came from leftover firecrackers used earlier that week, though the scene in front of them told a different story entirely. Two boys remained unresponsive in the front seats while blood stained the airbags and upholstery. The survivors kept shouting from a distance, trying to guide someone toward the scene before the sirens approached. The night stayed heavy and still across Maple Avenue as the reality of the ambush settled quietly over the block. Detectives reached Maple Avenue minutes after the collision and stood over a scene filled with confusion, though they quickly realized the attack required planning rather than impulse. The three surviving teens tried explaining what happened while still shaken, and investigators focused first on SK since he held the only connection to the person they attempted meeting that night. Deputies seized his phone immediately, knowing that digital trails often revealed more than shaken witnesses could describe under stress. Once investigators accessed SK's device under warrant, they opened the Instagram messages tied to the unbothered account and noted the suspicious timing of her replies. They pulled registration data for the profile and discovered the linked email address bearing the name TKMini103, which suggested a connection to Grape Street territory around East 103rd Street. That detail pushed detectives toward examining the associated phone number and the lookup tied directly to Tryon Bird, already documented as a self-admitted Grape Street Watts Crip. Investigators combed SK's photo gallery while reviewing more digital artifacts, and they uncovered the picture SK saved months earlier, showing Ramaj Maj Blumfield standing beside a light-colored Chevy Equinox with a bullet hole in its door. SK admitted during questioning that the photo belonged to Major, the same person he argued with on FaceTime during the summer. That discovery raised immediate suspicion since SK headed toward a meetup arranged by an account tied to Major's cousin. Detectives checked nearby surveillance cameras positioned around neighboring homes and businesses on Maple Avenue, and they located footage showing a similar Chevy Equinox backing into a driveway roughly 20 minutes before the attack. Another camera, captured the same vehicle speeding away from the area shortly after the shots rang out. These clips strengthened the belief that Madge played a central role in positioning the attackers along that block. Phone records served as the next major step. Deputies subpoenaed call detail logs and tower data for both Madge and Tryon, and analysts mapped their device activity across Los Angeles. The pings placed Madge's phone and Tryon's phone around Maple Avenue at the exact time frame of the shooting, solidifying their presence during the ambush. Additional review revealed that both devices traveled together during previous evenings linked to other violent encounters in Watts, giving investigators a consistent pattern. Detectives now understood the ambush resulted from coordination rather than coincidence, and the digital evidence laid out a direct path toward identifying the two suspects. Each screenshot, account detail, and cell tower ping pushed investigators closer to a clear narrative they could eventually present in court. The investigation shifted dramatically weeks later when officers working near Jordan Downs spotted Madge standing beside a black Infiniti parked awkwardly on a street in Watts. He appeared nervous and started reaching into the vehicle before shutting both doors quickly once he noticed law enforcement approaching. Madge turned and sprinted away from the scene without hesitation, leaving officers suspicious about what rested inside the car he abandoned so unexpectedly. Deputies searched the Infiniti after securing a warrant and found a Bushmaster Carbon 15 rifle placed across the passenger seat under loose clothing. They also recovered a 9mm polymer 80 Ghost gun resting near the driver's side floorboard with a high-capacity drum magazine inserted. The weapon lacked serial numbers, which made tracing ownership through normal channels impossible. Investigators immediately connected the firearm to the Maple Avenue case and sent it for ballistic testing. The Los Angeles County Crime Lab test fired the ghost gun and compared the casings to evidence retrieved from the driveway where the Range Rover crashed. Every casing found at the scene matched the microscopic markings created by the polymer 80 pistol, confirming the weapon fired each shot that struck Jamil and Million. Analysts also linked fragments from inside the vehicle to the same gun, eliminating any doubt about its use during the attack. Investigators expanded their review by matching casings from two earlier shootings involving bounty hunter affiliates on October 1st and October 8th. Both scenes contained casings tied to the same ghost gun, and witnesses reported seeing unfamiliar cars in each location shortly before shots were fired. Phone tower mapping placed both Madge and Tryon near those earlier incidents, showing a consistent presence across 3 attacks targeting bounty hunter members. Detectives concluded that Madge and Tryon operated together during a violent spree throughout early October, with the Maple Avenue ambush representing their most coordinated attempt. The ghost gun served as the final thread, tying their actions across Watts, and the ballistic proof allowed investigators to push the case into courtroom territory with confidence. Tryon Bird entered court first, while prosecutors laid out a timeline showing deliberate planning shaped through online deception and quiet surveillance. They played the video showing Tryon seated beside Madge inside a car with the polymer 80 ghost gun held casually for the camera. Jurors watched the clip carefully since the weapon matched every casing from Maple Avenue and both earlier shootings tied to bounty hunter targets. Prosecutors described the methodical creation of the unbothered profile and argued that Tryon helped guide SK into the kill zone with full awareness of what waited on that street. Defense arguments struggled against the digital records, cell tower traces, and incriminating images pulled from Tryon's own phone during the investigation. Testimony from detectives highlighted the precise alignment of Tryon's movements with Madge during every relevant moment. The jury returned guilty verdicts for both murders, along with all attempted murder counts linked to the surviving teens. The judge sentenced Tryon Bird to 142 years to life after reviewing the totality of evidence presented in court. Maj faced delays created by procedural issues related to trial timing, and charges were initially dismissed temporarily. Prosecutors immediately refiled the case, and the new proceedings moved quickly once the evidence resurfaced in front of a second jury. Investigators linked Maj to the Chevy Equinox through surveillance footage and linked him to the Infiniti containing the ghost gun responsible for every shot fired during the attack. Phone tower records strengthened those findings while tying Maj to similar incidents earlier that month. The jury convicted Maj for the murders of Jamel and Million, along with the attempted killing of SK. A 53 years to life sentence followed after the judge reviewed the circumstances presented in court. The funerals for Jamil Hill and Million Colquit drew large crowds from Gardena High and Centennial High as families struggled through grief that weighed heavily across both schools. Coaches shared memories about their leadership, while classmates placed flowers around posters showing their team photos. Community members gathered for memorial games that honored both teams while expressing sadness toward the sudden loss. The Los Angeles Chargers donated equipment to both football programs, with helmets carrying the initials of each boy so teammates could feel their presence during future seasons. Those gestures brought comfort to families who lost so much on that October night. Nickerson Gardens and Jordan Downs felt the emotional impact long after the sentencing, since the story touched households across both projects deeply. A fake Instagram profile shaped the tragedy and revealed how digital platforms can magnify conflicts rooted in long-standing rivalries. Families carried the consequences, while communities reflected on how technology offered new tools for harm during disputes shaped long before these teens were born.